Okay, so I'm at the Historical Society and I wanted to show you, before I went and made butter and show you how butter was made, different things that were originally used to make butter. And we're going to start with this butter churn. So it's a butter churn, it's a hand crank, and it turns these blades in the middle. And I say blades, but they're actually just made of wood with a central rod that turns it all. You'll notice, if you can notice, that there are no corners in this down the bottom. It is rounded to make it easier to clean, essentially, because cleaning this would be a bit of a pain in the butt. Let's not lie to ourselves. So some of them had a way to remove this central pin and then pull this out, again, to make it easier to clean. Some didn't. So what you would originally do is get your cream from the, well, long past the cow. It's settled out and you've scraped the cream off, so obviously unpasteurized, and then it would be tipped into here and you'd go like this for half an hour until your arm felt like it was going to break off, usually with the lid on for obvious reasons. No one wants to wear half cream half butter mix. And once it was actually butter and you could squeeze the excess fluid out, you would use these paddles, so one set or the other. It's just that we're lucky enough that we've got two sets here today, and just pat it and sort of shape it on there. And then you'd get your big wooden stamp, which unfortunately I cannot find today. And then you would basically stamp the butter to identify that it's yours if you were selling it, or otherwise you would just start using it or put it somewhere cool to harden up a little. At the Historical Society, you would have seen the butter churn. Obviously, I don't have a butter churn here on hand, so I am using a Mixmaster. I'm using carton cream. It works just as well with carton cream. So we're just going to pour it in and flick it on. And I'm probably going to speed up the footage because it's pretty dull, at least to start off with, before it gets interesting. So this has been spinning for a minute or two. Not long at all. And as you can see, it's already at that whipped cream stage, or double whipped if you were buying it out of the supermarket. So it's not going to take much longer, in all truth. A couple more minutes and we're going to be looking at butter. Now obviously if you were doing this with a butter churn, it would take much longer, just because you can't turn that fast. So it's firmed up quite a lot, and it's already started to take on that yellow tint, which is a very good sign. It hasn't started leaking liquid anywhere yet, so we've still got a ways to go, but it's actually become a lot more difficult to do because it's so firm. I'm hoping that you can see that it is a lot more yellow than it was a moment ago. It's still not its finished colour, but it's definitely getting closer, and it's starting to get sort of clumpy. It's kind of like mixing up mashed potato with a Mixmaster, which I have no idea why you would do that, but that's to get the idea of the current texture. you can, I'm trying to show you the difference. I don't know how good that's coming up. Probably not very. Anyway, on the left side, you've got something much closer to butter, and on the right side, you've got something that I've scraped off the side. It's definitely a mixture at the moment. So you've got like starting to get your buttery lumps on the top, and where it hasn't quite mixed in, it's still a little bit lighter. So I'm just mixing it through. Now, I just want to show you, it's started separating out, and I don't think the camera can show it. So there's a little bit of that milky sort of liquid at the bottom, and the fats and proteins, which is what makes up butter, is making lumps. So that's what that is. Yep. Okay, so I'm just going to open it up and give it a good scrape to get in those side bits that I've missed. And then from there, I'm just going to give it another quick mix to get them all mixed in. And I don't know, oh, you can see that. Very good. Yes, so you can see the fluid or milky liquid building up at the bottom, which is exactly what it's supposed to be doing. All right, we'll give it a quick mix. I'll scrape off as much of that as I can. And yeah, you can already see the lumps. Woo, whoops. There we go. And you can already see the lumps building up on the mixes. If I was making this for you guys to actually eat, which I'm not, this is just proof of concept, I would actually go find some proper cheesecloth instead of a chuck's cloth. It is clean, but all the same. And I would have gloves on for these next few bits. So I am just scooping it all out. So the liquid is, when you get a recipe that calls for milk butter, this is milk butter. Or buttermilk. Sorry, wrong way around. Buttermilk. And this obviously in my hand is actual butter. So what we need to do is squish out all that liquid. Now this will condense the fats together and leave us with a block at the end. So already it's starting to come together. It at least now looks like butter, but I can also see some lighter patches, which make me think that there's still a little bit of fluid still in there that needs to come out. Now the reason why it has to come out, besides it makes your butter taste a bit ill, is because it improves the lifespan of the butter. If you don't do it, then you end up with butter that goes off way quicker. Just going to dry my hand. And then this will bring us to where we had the paddles at the Historical Society, where they would like beat it down and smash it around. And I'm just going to set up for that right now. I am doing this on a warmish day, not a completely cold day. So while I was setting up, I just sat it in the fridge. Obviously, you probably wouldn't have to if you're doing it in the middle of a cold day or middle of the night, the coolest part. Anywho, so the reason we used paddles in the past for this job, and I'm assuming it's coming up on camera, very good, is because the weight of our hands, just working the rest of that liquid out. Sorry. The heat of our hands melts the butter faster than we can work it, which is obviously problematic. Still on camera? Good. I'll clean this bench up when I'm done. Yes, so the idea of the paddles is that they would be able to work through and squeeze the rest of that buttermilk out to get a good butter at the end. And obviously I have not got the tools for this job here today, which is proving to be a lot more awkward than I expected. So I am getting it out. I'm getting it all over the bench at the moment. So obviously you had nice big paddles. You could just squeeze it and scrape it and squeeze it and scrape it. And it would just dribble out and it wouldn't make as big a mess as I've made here. May I be forgiven? Okay, so I'm going to, and obviously you'd keep doing this process until it was complete, but given the mess and the temperature, I am just going to chuck that back in the fridge for a couple of minutes while I clean up this mess I've made. Bench is all cleaned down. Back to this job. Yeah, so you can understand why those paddles at the Historical Society are quite a lot larger than spatulas, because you do have to work out all of that additional fluid. I think we're getting a lot closer. So after that, they would have used a mold or a stamp after like making it into a pretty shape rather than this goop I've got going on at the moment. So I'm actually just going to put it back in the Glad wrap for this step. Now they wouldn't have had Glad wrap, so obviously they wouldn't have put it in Glad wrap, and they would have used the stamps directly onto the butter. I have had my own very sad attempt at making a stamp, and I haven't sanded it well enough to just apply it straight to the butter, which is why I'm putting it in Glad wrap. So I'm just giving it a bit more shape before I leave it in the Glad wrap, which I'm doing a shocking job of, may I just say. Okay, so this is my very sad attempt at making a stamp for butter. I'm not 100% sure that you can even see that. There you go. NHS, meaning Nathalia Historical Society.